Today on Locked On Rockies, let's talk All-Star Game.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 29th day of June in the year 2022. I'm Paul Holden, your host and Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, bringing you your Rockies talk here from the perspective of a fan who's followed this team his entire life and has been bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast here for a year and change. Today's episode of Locked On Rockies is brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. Hey, Rockies fans, you are going to love this. Today's episode is brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. Welcome to the world of trading cards reimagined. Stay tuned later in the show for more information on this awesome new tool for collectors. You're going to want to check out the Sports Card Investor app. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. All you got to do is search Locked On Rockies. And, of course, we are streaming live on YouTube. You can be part of the live show like Johnny Balls is, and then tells me I should flip my cameras the right way. That's a good point, Johnny. I'm still a rookie with my set here, and actually I'm in the middle of a move as well. So I'm hoping that actually coming up in a little bit later, we're going to get more of we're going to get a cooler set. I got some more Rockies pieces and things that I'm actually not using at the moment. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we will get a new set here real soon. It is all, yeah, as you said, Johnny, as you mentioned, moving the absolute worst. And unfortunately, that is the same for me. Today on Locked On Rockies, we're going to talk about the All-Star Game. We are going to talk about all of potential Rockies candidates for the All-Star Game. And of course, we're not going to not talk about beating the Dodgers in a series as well. But obviously, the big story from yesterday and the big story of everything was the Rockies beating the Dodgers. But before we dive into the series, I kind of wanted to look at some of the All-Star Game numbers, see what Rockies fans think there should be the representative for the Rockies. Because let's be honest, I don't think the Rockies are going to get more than their just one team representative in this All-Star Game. However, that could change. The interesting cases, the ones that have the best case so far seem to be CJ Cron is looking pretty good, as well as Jose Iglesias. Those are really the only two Rockies that are getting into the top. Charlie Blackmon is the 20th ranked outfielder in terms of the National League. So in terms of votes that were gathered in tally as of earlier this week, June 27th, where the Rockies stand in terms of all-star votes, CJ Cron is in 8th place amongst all first basemen. He's not going to catch the list of good first basemen is just too far ahead of CJ Cron. However, I will argue that CJ Cron has been better than Votto and Tellez for the Brewers this year, and probably even Hosmer as well. Going over into shortstop, honestly, great for Jose Iglesias. Again, is he going to beat Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson, Francisco Lindor, Tommy Edman? No, but it's ridiculous that Fernando Tatis Jr. has 243,549 votes. You're seeing your problem. You're seeing your issue with the fan vote there. I like the fan voting thing. I think it's cool. I think since the All-Star Game doesn't determine home field advantage anymore, you don't have as much of an importance there, but it is something where it is kind of like, you do wish people took it a little bit more serious. But you can't also fault people for, throwing in some all Rockies ballots, throwing in some all Padres ballots if you're a San Diego fan and going out there and trying to get your favorite player to the All-Star Game. And I mean, there would be an argument to be made if he was playing. Tatis could be right in that mix. Anyway, that's just a lot of votes. It's a lot of votes, and obviously, I think there's stuff in place that if he gets it, he's not going to be doing it, and there's an alternate, sure, but he's not going to. considering that Trey Turner and Dansby Swanson have already gotten over 1 million votes each. And Tatis is sitting at under 250,000 votes. Jose Iglesias has picked up almost 145,000 votes. Good on you, Rockies fans, and that's a good sleeper pick. He has been really good for the Rockies. Honestly, his defense hasn't necessarily been as good as I would like it, but Jose Iglesias has actually swung a pretty darn good bat and had a pretty darn good season for the Rockies so far this year. 297, average 345, 723, 345 OBP, OPS of 723. Hits his first home run in an absolutely massive situation for the Rockies earlier in this week when it comes to how he's contributing. And that could be a great sign. Jose has been one of the most consistent hitters for the Rockies, been someone that's very effective at getting on base. Good for him. Again, it's a crowded company that they got to deal with there at shortstop, but good for Jose for pulling in almost 150,000 votes on the first go round, and for that's a good reflection of him having a strong season and a good reflection of our All-Star Game voters there for Rockies fans. And then we drop down here into the outfield category with Charlie Blackmon in the 20th overall in the eligible, or I guess the outfielders with votes. He has gotten 212,697. I think Charlie Blackmon is another person that you could make an example for the Rockies representative as an all-star. His defense hasn't necessarily been there, and you could probably put him in that DH category as well, which is really, really interesting. I'm not used to seeing the DH on the National League side of the All-Star voting ballot, but another role for him because, again, Charlie Blackmon's mashing right now. Charlie Blackmon so far this season, 268 average, 320 OBP, and an OPS of 785, 12 home runs, 41 RBIs, and a couple of stolen bags. Not going to compete with the, again, loaded talent of some of these things, but it's great to see that these three Rockies have been getting some recognition. I think Cron is the one that, especially Blackmon and Iglesias, getting on those leaderboards, even without necessarily being the biggest of names still right now, especially Charlie. I guess Charlie Blackmon's a different story, but CJ Cron should be getting more votes and is getting a good amount of respect so far. We got an answer from Johnny in the live chat here. We're going to dive down more potential all-star candidates for the Rockies. But before we do that, I got to tell you about some of the great folks that make this show possible. And let's start with the Sports Card Investor app. Well, here's the deal. Welcome to the world of sports cards reimagined. The Sports Card Investor app is the hobby's most powerful resource. Quickly check the value of your favorite cards, find great deals, and profit from the hobby you love. Available completely free in the Google Play and Apple stores. And the Sports Card Investor app is a must-have for baseball fans. So we're talking Charlie Blackmon, right? So I went on over to the Sports Card Investor app. And right now, say you have this, maybe you've been holding on to this Charlie Blackmon card. This Charlie Blackmon card here, the 2009 Bowman Chrome Prospect. They got the price guide at $202. That's right. You could be sitting on a Charlie Blackmon card that's worth over $200. And the Sports Card Investor app helps you track the history prices, the sale prices, where these cards are going, and the price for them. And not only that, they tell you when the trends in action are changing, because right now, this 2011 Topps Update base price guide has just increased, and this Charlie Blackmon card has now seen a $5 increase in value, almost a $10 increase in value throughout this week. So you can see what the prices are going for your cards at auctions and so much more with the Sports Card Investor app. Diving into the live chat here, when I asked who should the Rockies representative for the All-Star Game be, Johnny Balls says Daniel Bard. And you know what? That's probably the best pick. I think right now for the Colorado Rockies, it would be Daniel Bard. He has been a stellar addition to the Rockies. He's been great, giving up his first earned run and I think 15 appearances yesterday. Him and CJ Cron are the two ones that I would say have the best candidacy for All-Star games. Another player, though, that I think deserves to have more love and should be receiving votes in terms of the All-Star game is Connor Joe. I think Connor Joe has had a great season, has continued to break out. He's been a 1.2 WAR player this year, 277 batting average, 16 RBI, 4 stolen bases, an OBP of 374, 399 slugging, OPS of 772, 5 home runs as well. Connor Joe is also on that list of someone who has been a impact key player for this Rockies team. But when you break it down, I think the main two focuses of the Rockies All-Star game will be probably CJ Cron and Connor Joe, but not Connor Joe. I'm sorry, Daniel Bard. Because those are arguably two of the best trade pieces that the Rockies have as well. July could be a very interesting month for those two players as the Rockies figure out what they might do in the future and what moves they might make. I don't necessarily know if they are going to move. I don't think the Rockies will be sellers, especially with how many extensions they gave out this year. And with Chris Bryant being injured, they probably believe that Bryant being in the lineup would make this team look different. However, teams are going to be paying attention to the Daniel Bards and CJ Crons for sure. Those are two types of players that not only have had all-star caliber quality seasons, but have also been able to reinvent and kind of bounce back as well and kind of come to their own. Especially when you're looking at Daniel Bard, how many people are going to be looking for, take Boston example, looking for a reunion with Daniel Bard, who has been pretty darn good at Coors Field this year and been a really good bright spot for the Rockies bullpen. Something I originally thought Bard should have stepped away from the role and let someone else go in there at the beginning of this season. And he has proven me to be absolutely wrong. Now I feel confident with Daniel Bard stepping onto the bump now, and I feel confident that his success should be reflected in maybe an appearance in the All-Star game, or at least a recognition there, because teams are definitely going to be interested in seeing if the Rockies are willing to move Daniel Bard and get him on their team. In the live chat here, which you can join by subscribing to Locked On Rockies on YouTube, we have whatever happened to Scott Oberg. Is he just done? Unfortunately, that seems to be the case. He just the medical stuff, the blood clotting. I believe he was seeing some form of I can't remember what he was going to be looking at, or seeing some action there. This is from the Denver Post here in May. He is out indefinitely, and he has been taking on an expanded role in the Rockies scouting and player development departments. So Oberg continues to be involved with the team, but this is from Kyle Newman at the beginning of May, and it literally opens with Scott Oberg might never pitch again, but he's got another career in baseball waiting for him if he wants it. So the Rockies value Scott Oberg and what he does and what he contributes and what he brings to the team. But unfortunately, I don't think his health is going to allow him to get back to the major league level, which is terrible because Scott Oberg was a good pitcher and a solid arm for the Rockies. And if he was able to come back, he would be someone that could contribute and help make this Rockies team a lot better. So that's kind of my thoughts on the All-Star game and things of that nature. But those would kind of be, when you're looking at who should be the All-Stars for the Rockies or who should get your votes, obviously all of them, because we want to get our Rockies in there. We love our Colorado Rockies, but Jose Iglesias, Connor Joe, CJ Cron, Daniel Bard, all four would be solid picks. And then honestly, on top of that, depending on, maybe I'll get a couple more starts in there, Chad Kuhl could be an interesting person to slide into that conversation as well. I think if Kuhl's unfortunate period might have dented that resume for him to have a better shot at getting into the All-Star game. But he certainly showed this week, especially, that he's capable of doing of mimicking and duplicating and continuing the success that he has seen so far this season. Now, let's talk about some success. Let's talk about the game last night. It was a big time win for the Rockies. It feels great to beat the Dodgers. It's always a good thing to beat the Dodgers. And yes, you could point to off days for people, you can point to injuries, whatever the case for the Dodgers, that's fine. However, the Rockies went out and dominated Clayton Kershaw last night. And that is a sweet, sweet sentence to say. This Rockies team that even this season as well has historically struggled to score runs. I guess historically, at least this season has struggled to score runs, and that includes in the friendly confines of Coors Field. What do they go out and do? They go out and they score inning after inning after inning after inning. That's exactly what you have to do. Why? What was so important about the Rockies offense yesterday was the Dodgers score one in the top of the first. The Rockies manufacture a run. The Dodgers score another in the top of the second. The Rockies come back with the big 3-run punch. Then you cool off. Kyle Freeland gets in a little bit more of the groove, and you see 3 straight shutout innings where the Rockies, again, in 2 of 3 of those innings, score runs. Every time you have the opportunity to score when the Dodgers don't, I know that sounds simple, but again, we've seen time after time, especially with games at Coors Field, the Rockies relinquish their lead, relinquish the grip on some of these teams that they have, but they haven't done that in this series. These are 2 games and a string of many games they need to do it consistently that the Rockies are showing that they can throw some punches to go at the best. Why this team can go out against a Clayton Kershaw with a 2 ERA and no losses on the season and hand him the most amount of scored runs he's had on his start in a long time, I don't know. And then go and get smacked by the Pirates and get smacked by the Nationals, get smacked by the Marlins, get smacked by these other teams. I don't know. I don't think Chris Bryant being back in the lineup simply washes away all the problems of this Rockies offense, but it could be a wave of confidence. But the confidence in the offense comes from these are 2 games where your offense should start building confidence. You just took down 2 pitchers that have been great this year, that have been stellar this year. You outdueled them. You took it to Kershaw. You hammered Tyler Anderson at least enough, and you were backed up by the pitching performance there from Cool. This is exactly what you need to do. And that's what good teams do. You bounce back and you come back from adversity, especially first inning run. Bam, Rockies back in it. Then the crooked early number is huge too. The Dodgers are keeping themselves in it. They punch back after the Rockies score, retake the lead. What do the Rockies do? They make the lead even harder to get, and then they go on for a nice stretch of scoreless innings. And again, they might not have had certain pieces in the lineup, but listen, this Dodgers lineup is deep and it's still good. This is a Dodgers lineup that is still featured yesterday. Turner, Freeman, other Turner, Taylor, Muncy, Alberto, Thompson, and Lux there in this game, and Austin and Barnes as well. Headlined by the fact that Clayton Kershaw was on the bump for the Dodgers. They are still a threat every single time. I know that you don't see Mookie Betts in there, but just because no Mookie Betts is in that lineup doesn't mean the Dodgers aren't really, really good. The Rockies, again, go out and see some successful play. What do? Connor Joe gets a hit and a walk, or gets on base gets a walk and scores. Charlie Blackmon destroys, absolutely owns Clayton Kershaw. It is a real crazy. When you look at Clayton Kershaw or Charlie Blackmon versus Clayton Kershaw is nuts. We talked about his numbers yesterday, but Charlie Blackmon against Clayton Kershaw, he has 69 at bats against Clayton Kershaw, 21 hits, a double, 2 triples, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, 5 walks, with a 304 batting average, 351 OBP, a 551 slugging average, and an OPS of 902. That is one of the most successful pitchers that he has a card against, and it's Clayton freaking Kershaw. It's incredible. It's incredible. And it's incredible to see Charlie Blackmon still not only perform. Charlie Blackmon is so important for the Rockies. Charlie Blackmon producing for the Rockies is so special. How many multi-hit games have we seen from Chuck this year? Absolutely awesome. Someone that I was incredibly worried about coming into this season, and here he is leading this team to know it exactly the way he knows how with his offense, saying, I am not scared of Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw is coming into our house. I know how to hit this guy. And what happens? Backed off of, thanks to Blackmon and the rest of the team, they generate runs. The run generators needed to do it. Chris Bryant didn't do much yesterday, but CJ Cron gets an RBI, 2 walks. Brendan Rodgers, a couple RBIs off a couple hits. Jose Iglesias, an RBI off a hit. Grichuk with the big home run. Diaz with the home run. This is the Rockies offense when it works. It's a Rockies offense that has home run threats. It's a Rockies offense that has a strong presence at the top of the order. It is crazy. A sweep today would be massive. It would be a wonderful, wonderful momentum booster for the Rockies to sweep the Dodgers, especially when you have an Arizona team coming in next where you could continue. If a series win there helps you get further closer to out of the basement of the NL West. The D-backs right now just finished off a massive comeback there against the Padres in yesterday's game. I think they were down to like 7 games or 6 or 7 runs where they just came back. And the Diamondbacks record is currently, let me see. What is it? Clicked on the wrong thing. Anywho, the Diamondbacks are in 4th place in the NL West. The Rockies are in 5th place. The Rockies would like to no longer be in 5th place, and you get closer and closer to doing that by bouncing back. 34-41 as of yesterday, the Diamondbacks. The Rockies are now sitting at a 33-42. So there you go. The Rockies right on the heels of getting to the NL West, the 4th spot. And hey, how do you get it further up in there? You keep beating the division, and that's what the Rockies are going to do. Got some questions here in the live chat. It is popping off right now, so if you got some more questions, put them in there. I'd love to answer them. Before we do that, got to tell you about the folks that make this show possible, including BlueNile.com. Whether you're ready, woo, the frog was there. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft the perfect engagement ring, and each ring is one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing it? That's exactly the situation that I would find myself in. I wouldn't know where to start when it comes to finding the right piece of jewelry. Well, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. They're available on the phone and via the chat to help you find a memorable gift at every single budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Rockies listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Also got to tell you about our friends at Rock Auto. Save time and money when using Rock Auto and skip the trip down to the big box chain store, because when you head there, you're going to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. And nowadays, you want to spend even more for things that are already even more expensive? Nah. You don't want to be doing that. Head on over to rockauto.com. They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto parts needs. That's rockauto.com. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Diving into the live chat here, Eric Harper says Connor Joe gets my personal all-star vote. Brendan Rodgers is a close second. Brendan Rodgers coming alive and going Scorcho mode is a huge reason why he could see a shift there in getting votes. He certainly deserves some, and he certainly deserves more recognition as one of the better shortstops in the game of baseball. Connor Joe, again, we talked earlier there about that. And his chance is one that I think is a strong contender for the Rockies All-Star game slot. Diving back in here, Joel says, how do you feel about Bryant rotating into third base occasionally as a way to shake things up? I don't necessarily hate it, especially if you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with some of these other outfielders. Maybe you want to get Hilliard in there. Maybe you want to do things. It's interesting with what happens with Rymack, and honestly, here's the thing with that. I don't want Chris Bryant at third base taking any single at bat away from Montero. I want Montero to get as many at bats as possible. And if Chris Bryant was to start popping down onto third base there, I think that could get in the way. And especially with how long that he's been now shifting to that outfield position and is coming off of the IL, I don't necessarily see Chris Bryant spending a lot of time at third base. Could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen. I wouldn't count anything out with this Rockies team, especially depending on what injuries do going down the stretch. But at the end of the day, I don't think Chris Bryant should see any time at third base when Montero needs to be getting as many opportunities to get live in-game action as he can. Johnny Ball says Ryan McMahon's extension not looking promising so far. It's heating up a little bit. I am worried. It could be an oversight, but I still think Ryan McMahon is a still a solid option and still someone I think that can hit the ceiling. I just want him to strike out less and have a better approach at the plate. Let's see. Eric Harper says, what are everybody's expectations for the trade deadline? And Johnny says, I expect mutual disappointment. And Joel says, I think they'll trade Iglesias for some picks at the deadline. Jose Iglesias kind of makes the most sense to move for the Rockies, especially if he is playing well. CJ Cron, you gave him that extension. You want him to kind of fill some more time before your young guys. But the Rockies do have options at shortstop coming up in the pipeline. Montero can play over there at short. You can put Montero at third and Ryan McMahon at shortstop if you would like with Brendan Rodgers. You could also flip Rodgers to shortstop and have McMahon play second base. However, I've always said I'm against Brendan Rodgers not playing second base. We've seen how good Brendan Rodgers is at second base, how effective he is in the shift, how good of a defender he is. Even if he's not making some of these plays, he's making diving stops and knocking the ball down. Ryan McMahon is getting his defense back there. So Jose Iglesias is a potential piece. I would also, if the Rockies sell pieces off, Iglesias, Colome, Bard, and Cron would be the four players that I think that they make moves for. I think Boston and I think Miami are going to be two people that are going to be checking in, especially on Daniel Bard, to see if they can bolster up that bullpen. Maybe some interesting teams trying to go and get Iglesias and Cron and Bard for a little package deal to try and see if they can give themselves a little offense, a little bit of a veteran presence as well. I think the Rockies are going to be very, very hesitant to move on from CJ Cron, though. Whereas Iglesias, they might be more willing to move him because they can move him forward. However, you trade Cron, you got Montero to play first base. You just have him just start getting his rep. He's not a first baseman by trade. Todd Helton literally went, I'm pretty sure, to spring training and stuff specifically to work with him on first base and things like that. So it's a big shift if you move away from Cron. But if you are looking for the players that you could see traded at the deadline, those are the four that I would imagine have the most chances of being traded. No one's going to really dive in, I think, for Rocky starters at this point. If you were going to try to do a big thing for Herman, it would have been last year. And I don't necessarily know. I really don't know. It's the Rockies in the trade deadline. I really don't. I'm not going to sit here and think that they're going to do anything big at the deadline until we see the rumors of things popping up, of things to come. But I think you can get some pretty solid picks. You can get some pretty solid pieces back if you are trading your Iglesias, your Bard, your Colome, and your Crone. But how does that make your team better in the right now, which the Rockies seem to be trying to do sometimes? So I don't know. It's it is a very, very interesting spot for the Rockies. The deadline could be really, really interesting for the Rockies, and this stretch really, really is something. And Mark, you nail it there. If Tovar continues to be elite, at which he is been incredible at the AA level, if you move on from Iglesias, you are now looking at your left side of the infield having the two pieces of your future. And is that if the Rockies aren't in a spot of contention, if they're still sitting in the fourth, fifth spot in the NL West, if the third wild card spot is slipping further and further away, if the Rockies are still finding themselves more than 5 games below 500 going into the deadline, why not bring up your prospects and let them get half a season worth of work and let them get as many live ABs? I mean, I just don't necessarily think you're going to get. You're not going to have your. You're not going to be blown away, or you're not going to have anything that's going to be great for the Rockies if you just stick with this core that continues to just do nothing, and then you might lose some pieces in the offseason. Do you want to keep Iglesias around so you can kind of buy more time for Tovar? Maybe. But if you're at a point, get him up, get the major league at bats. Why not? I mean, what do you have to lose? And then you get yourself in a position for a better draft pick. But we got Dinger City in the live chat too. If you want to go watch some great Mario baseball contact, Eric Harper says, I expect Tovar this season. I think you should. I think you should expect him to come up as well. Will be really interesting to see. I don't think this year will be the thing, but could maybe even see some Zach Veen this year as well. Actually, next week, we're going to dive into some prospect talk with Locked On MLB Prospects. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up next week. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we go, let's get you your quick matchups for tonight's game as the Rockies go for the sweep of the Dodgers. The sweep of the Dodgers. God, I love saying that. Yeah, absolutely love saying that. German Marquez on the bump tonight going up against Julio Reyes. Against the Dodgers, someone the Rockies have seen plenty, and the Dodgers have seen plenty of German as well. If this is another good start for German, that is something special there. Not special, I shouldn't say. But that is what you're looking for with German getting back into form here. However, you're looking at some of this. Trey Turner's got an over 300 average. Freddie Freeman over 300 average against Marquez. Will Smith 258. Chris Taylor 248. Gavin Lux 291. There are plenty of people that can put the thump against German there. However, on the flip side, Jonathan Dazas had success against Urias. Is it Urias? Urias, I think is how it is. I always am. Charlie Blackmon again. A lot of ABs. Chris Bryant's seen Julio as well there with 254. CJ Cron batting 295, 17 home runs. Brendan Rodgers. The Rockies all have above 200 batting averages against Julio in their lineup tonight. It would be an absolutely awesome moment for the Rockies if they get the sweep tonight. But folks, that's going to do it for us here today on Locked On Rockies. Huge live audience today. So I want to say thank you all so much for tuning into the live show and being a part of the live audience. If you subscribe on Locked On Rockies on YouTube, then I can know that you're chatting. You can hang out with us, and it's a huge help to us. And folks, we're also free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Go check that out. And hey, if you want to stay up to date with all things Colorado sports, make sure you're checking out the Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Broncos, and Locked On Nuggets podcasts as well. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.